Parliament. Next to me, Edward Kisiangani, our resident political analyst. Hi, Prof. How are you?
We have missed you.
Have you?
Yes.
Have you really?
We have.
Thank you.
Welcome.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back. And Felix Odiambo, Country Director of the Electoral Institute for Sustainable Democracy in Africa. You're all very welcome to the program. As I mentioned before we went to the break, we are discussing the way out of the IEBC stalemate, and in particular, 3 proposals that are before Parliament. So, David, I'll start with you. I know we've already done a report on this a little earlier, but quickly again, run our audience through the 3 proposals and just what you think about them.
Thank you so much, and good evening, viewers. I wanted to start from the fact that Kenya, is a democracy governed by the Constitution, and so we have put ourselves in the fact that we will renew the mandate of leaders after every 5 years, and as you would know, now everyone is looking at what's going to happen next year. People think that some leaders have failed, some have done well, and they wonder when they do go to elections, they are sure that the results of those elections are going to be fine. And before I go to the options available, I want to just give you a preamble that brought us where we are today. That post-07, we called a gentleman here called Kriegler.
Yes. Came
to this country.
Johan Kriegler.
Yes. Did some work and proposed to us how best we should reform our electoral laws and electoral bodies and procedures. And we tried doing that, and that's the framework that governed the election that happened in 2013. But it's important that you note that from the beginning that elections are meant for rebirth, renewal of mandate and all that. And so as you hear people talking, you have that in mind, that are we going to truly renew mandate, or we are going through a poker game? And as a country that is governed by a constitution, what we are going to propose, what is happening, all of it is being done under the constitution. That's why, as Parliament, and I sit in the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, we've been watching what's happening in the country, agitations against IEBC, and been trying to see how best can the Committee of Parliament help the country get out of this stalemate. Right.
So, one, you have the Chepkonga proposal. Quickly.
Yes, that's what I want to go to. That's what I want to go to now.
Right.
That it's not a hard and fast proposal. First of all, it's something that we've been working on by at the committee level. Now we've had like 4 meetings, and what is coming out is 3-4 things. One, we are saying that before the commissioners go home, before we even think about them going home, we must have a framework of appointing new commissioners that takes into account all shades of opinion. And by this, I mean that the current law, as it is, it says that if these commissioners went home today, then the president will somehow appoint 6 out of 7 persons that will sit in the selection panel that will appoint the commission. So what we are saying, first of all, is can we review the process of appointment? Can we review the number of persons in the panel appointing the commissioners? And so we are proposing that the majority party proposes 2 people, the minority party proposes 2 people, and 3 other persons from the civil society, the church, the trade unions, from non-parliamentary people.
The chair is picked by the Public Service Commission, is proposed by the Public Service.
This is one of the things we're looking at, that among the last 3, one of them would come from the Parliamentary Service Commission, who could be the chair.
Okay.
Now, in that regard, then after that, then this selection panel that is one that will now call for interviews for those who will then become commissioners. Now, the other proposal that was given by, I don't think it's a proposal as such, but in the PSA report, Public Accounts Committee report, that report, we've not discussed that report yet, but it says, recommendation 3, that the commission should be trimmed down to 3 part-time commissioners. It's one of the proposals, and remember the first one I told you about also proposes 5 commissioners, all of them part-time, serving. We are looking at them serving for less than 6 years, so that we have one commission doing an election and goes home like that every the time. Now the third one is one that mirrors what Okoa Kenya was talking about, where you have the commission, not a panel of selection, but commissioners themselves being nominated by political parties, some from the civil society, some from the church. That's what they're calling the Kaluma proposal. So you don't have an interview. God brings 4 commissioners, Jubilee brings 4, then we have another 2 or 3 coming from the civil society, churches and all that. These are the proposals on
and
the
tenor,
table.
what would their tenor be?
6 years.
It will be 6 years as well.
You know, the tenor really is guided by the Constitution. We don't have so much leeway around it. It says 6 years for all the commissions, including the IBC.
Right.
So those are the 3 that we have on the table now.
Felix, let me come to you. Do those differences sound substantial to you in terms of dealing with the first concern that political parties seem to have, which is a personnel issue? Who are these people who are actually running the Electoral Commission?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. And let me begin by saying that the last time I was there, I expressed concern with the hardline position that had been taken by the 2 leading coalition. Over the last 2 days, I think there has both the 2 coalitions have expressed their willingness to commit to a multi-sectoral dialogue, and I think that is welcomed, and the recognition that a wide sector of society should participate in that is also commendable. I think it should be remembered that Kenya has experimented with the various models of election management. We've had the independent model, which is the system that we now have. There was the government model, which is the system that was there in 1963 and 1991, and then the hybrid model. And these are really the classification of electoral commission. The point, however, I think, in my opinion, goes beyond personnel. We've tinkered with the law. In the past, we have changed personnel, we have adjusted our regulations, but the problem with the election management and strengthening the electoral process in this country seems to recur every time we are faced with an election. I've been a strong advocate for the independent model, a strong, viable, autonomous electoral management body. But it seems probably our context is different. South Africa has a similar model. The IEC of South Africa is independent and is one of the best electoral commission in Africa. Ghana's electoral commissioners, the 7 of them are actually appointed by the president, and Ghana's electoral commission is one of the best and credible election management body in the continent, despite the fact that they are appointed by the president, and the president is usually an incumbent in that country. I think for Kenya in particular, because of our unique context and circumstances and the polarization, probably we may want to consider the 2002 IPPG model, where the mainstream political parties appoint commissioners, but that is not the cure. Mozambique actually does the same. Frelimo and Renamo both nominated commissioners to the Electoral Commission of Mozambique, and that commission was never regarded as credible. So I think the problem goes beyond election management bodies, the problem goes beyond personnel, and there are so many fundamental reforms that needs to be introduced between now and 2017 if we had to secure a credible process.
And that's agreed, but because right now we're dealing with the personnel issue, it's always about, you know, I mean, for the current commission, we're talking about, you know, they have been compromised in some form or other. At least that is the allegation that is on the table. What do any of those 3 make substantive changes that you think would, you know, help the electorate feel that this is a credible body being run by credible personnel? Any of those 3 proposals making sense before we move to the other electoral issues?
I would go for, like I said, I'm for the independent model, but I would go, I think because of our unique context, I would go for a model that involves political parties, especially parliamentary political parties, nominate commissioners. I think that is probably what can cure the situation in this country.
Prof, what do you think?
I think about very many things, and this thing is it's really very interesting. I think, Anne, when you look at what is happening, you realize that we need an independent electoral commission. It's one of the independent commissions that is envisaged in Article 248. So how we negotiate toward that independence is a political process. But what I would like to say is good that the political groups that are around are now negotiating. They are looking like they can start talking, which is a good thing for our country. But I don't think that anybody in their right senses in this country can settle for a process in which either Jubilee or CORD are negotiating or even appointing commissioners. The thing is that suppose an election is called and then the 2 who are proposed by Jubilee declare that that election is fraudulent and therefore it's not right, and then the group that is chosen by court says the election is right. If they go there and somebody stands at their back and says, you know, we appointed you on this commission, so you must do our bidding, we shall even get more problems. So in my opinion, they can discuss the way forward and say this is how we want things to be done, but they must run short of the fact that they cannot appoint those appointees. Suppose in 2022, after CORD has proposed 2-3 commissioners and then Jubilee has done the same, then a new movement, a new political movement comes and tells you that, okay, 2022 we have a new political movement and we also want to have 2 or 3 more commissioners on this commission, and they have 6 years, remember, therefore they will be overseeing the elections in 2022. What are we going to do? Again,
so how should they be appointed then?
The appointment,
outside of parliament,
the whole thing is the process of appointing. They must legislate. Actually, I've always said that parliament is the problem. First of all, you can see that in terms of the way we vet people who participate in the elections, because there are 2 things to this election. There are the referees on one side, the referees that we are condemning, but there are also players on the one side. On the other hand, the players themselves cannot pass the integrity test. And the players themselves cannot pass the integrity test, and they do not want to be corrected if they play hardball. They start fouling people in the box, but then they are condemning the referees. So what we need really to say is that we must set the rules strong enough to apply to the players, strong enough also to apply to the referees.
So, but who then would make those appointments is my question. If it's not going to be nominations from political parties.
It's not about nominations, Anne. It's about the kind of laws that regulate the appointment of commissioners. We must legislate on how the commissioners themselves can operate independent of the political class.
I hear you, but let me take you back, Prof. You have just argued that you do not favor any of those models that are being proposed currently in Parliament, because, you know, these are political appointees who then could politic at the end of an electoral process, and one favors this political side and the other favors another. So I am asking, in terms of reconstituting an electoral commission, should then those appointees be coming from who? Civil society, faith-based groups, or who?
My suggestion is this: we must have a multi-sectoral team. In fact, the kind of appointment that we are looking for is the people who sit on the panel of the guys that people who are vetting the people who are going to be electoral commissioners. The team that is going to recruit must be multi-sectoral. It should not be the Law Society of Kenya alone. So Parliament, what it's supposed to do is to pass a law that picks the panel from all sectors of the community representative, and that is the team that will recruit commissioners.
And that's exactly what you
in legal affairs we propose to have a panel.
Yes. It's not about appointment of commissioners.
No.
Yes.
I thought you were listening.
Yes.
The bill that Cheponga is proposing is not for commissioners. It's a panel of 7 people who will then propose who becomes commissioners. That's what you're proposing in Judicial Legal Affairs Committee. So in this panel will have 7 people, 2 from CORD, 2 from Jubilee, and 3. Let's just listen first, Prof. Then 3 will then come from the places you are saying, from the other Kenyans. They're talking about.
Prof just wants other Kenyans.
One thing you must agree with, Professor, is that this is politics. Not everyone is doing politics. I mean, in politics, political parties have a very big stake, and you have to give it to them. And secondly, in Kenya now, and I really wanted to say this, that we've lost any pretenses at impartiality. Everyone thinks that someone has taken a second side.
Right.
And so no one believes that there's anybody in this country who is this independent, who is this neutral. That's why you're saying that in appointing, you must allow political parties also have a role to play. But before you go away, Anne, the main thing that I think for me IEBC has failed to do, that is causing all these things, is the failure to set up credible, foolproof, transparent and accountable systems. If you have systems that work, no one would care who is chair, who is what in IEBC.
Right.
The idea would be having systems that work.
And that actually brings me to what is my final question, because if we were to move away from the obsession when it comes to personnel who are running the Electoral Commission, Felix, what are the other substantive reforms that need to happen to make the entire electoral process credible?
It starts with part of the reason why IEBC has not been able to put systems. Parliament and the executive constantly deny IEBC funding to be able to carry out its operation. We purported to give the IEBC a political and autonomy and independence, but we denied them financial and physical independence. But like I've said, the problem goes beyond election. I mean, personnel at the Electoral Commission. The problem is far more fundamental than that. Number one, we need to make and reform our voter registration process. I've said repeatedly that if you look at the state of the voter register and compared it to the 2012, the voter register did not make comprehensive tests, and it is not an authoritative role. The second fundamental and minimum reforms that must be considered is the way we handle the election results management system. How do we handle presidential ballot or any other ballot for that matter, from the time when a voter casts his ballot and when the result is cleared, and what mechanism do we use to transmit that ballot to the National Tallying Center? The other question that this country must deal with is the determination on what kind of technology we'll use within the context of 2017. And finally, we must resolve election dispute resolution and determine which body will deal with which dispute both at the pre-election stage and the post-election stage.
Sure. What are the other substantive reforms?
The other substantive reforms, I think, in specific terms, is that we should make the polling station, which is a school, where the final decision maker on how many votes were cast there. In fact, when there is a conflict between what is being announced in Nairobi and what is being announced in a polling station in Rusinga, the polling station prevails. Yes. That will remove any doubt because the agents are there. Then there's also the question, if you look at the electoral law that governs the way the judiciary deals with the results, and which my brother is talking about, you see, there are certain things, the period within which the petitions can be held, determined is very short. Some evidence could be left out, especially the presidential election. So that one also has to be dealt with. Look at what the Supreme Court did, and they announced the verdict before they write the report. That should also be stopped, because you cannot start reconstructing the report after you have announced the verdict. It's a bad thing. So generally, those are some of the things, and then the whole question of accountability from the point of view of the commissioners. When they have integrity problems, how do we deal with it? And what is the role of Parliament in making sure that this thing can be dealt with even mid-term, so that they are removed in a constitutional way, rather than just talking about so and so was found in this kind of thing, and there is no mechanism to remove them.
David, finally, the other substantive
really a couple of them. And some of the things they're talking about, by the way, are already in Parliament. We've proposed amendments that include the polling station being the first and the last place. We've proposed in the bill that, we are focusing so much on the commissioners that we lose some of this. In Parliament now we have a bill that is pending for Parliament that now spreads the time the Supreme Court can decide from 14 days to 30 days. But what's important is this: that we will not finish all these things if the government still cannot guarantee a Kenyan who is above 18 years old an ID, wherever they are. This is where it starts. We must start with giving the ID, and IEBC should have done this, because IEBC should be able to help us get this right. That every Kenyan who is more than 18 years old has an ID card. After that, you must sure that they're all registered wherever they be. And finally, and most importantly for me, like I've told you this evening, we cannot have commissioners who take sides, or who seem to have taken sides. If you're going to have that, then you're going to cause problems in this country. So, as I finish, I just want to request everybody who is listening, let's invest in systems. Let's invest in machines that are going to help us deliver elections, so that there's no human interference, wherever they be. Otherwise, we'll continue going to the streets, we'll continue being tear-gassed until the right formula is gotten. And finally, Anne, I want to ask the President of this country to take charge of the ongoing process. Accept dialogue, let people talk, so that this country can move forward in one accord.
And at least we talk here on the program. Thank you so much, everyone, for your views. We're taking a short break. We're back with the business. After this, stay with us.